wanted to ask you about Mike Smith and his, I don't know if temperament is the right word. Our understanding is he's a goalie that's not afraid to be vocal in the room. He's a guy that, maybe is more of a leader than certain goalies in certain situations. What's your sense of that in your first run through with him?
Yeah, definitely. Guy who's played a lot in the league, has, obviously had success and is an older goalie and someone who's definitely a leader on the team, speaks up. When we have internal player meetings, he's the guy who always, voices his opinion, and obviously I don't think that's as typical for a goalie. You probably don't see it in many goalies, but he's somebody who's comfortable. He's played a lot of games, and just aside from the stuff he does on the ice, just a great guy and a great leader.
Your lines have been largely the same for a decent chunk of time here. How meaningful is that towards the end of a year, where rather than still searching for those mixes, you seem to have found them and you're playing with guys regularly?
Yeah, it's definitely nice to build chemistry. Things obviously change all the time, but this has been a period where we've been playing really well and have been largely running the same lines like you mentioned. So that's always good to find consistency. I think that we've all kind of played with each other too. So if there ever needs to be a change up, we're all pretty comfortable and familiar with everybody. So, but it has been nice to be able to kind of get in a groove with your line and build chemistry.
I want to ask you about the upcoming playoffs, and maybe the styles. Like, you played in Toronto, a team that had the offensive side of the game down and still do, and have to prove that they can meet that playoff meat grinder and play that defensive playoff hockey. And I think the team here, to a lesser extent, is probably trying to prove the same thing. Is today's playoff environment yesterday's playoff environment? Do you still need to be able to, is it maybe swinging a little bit towards the team that plays more like those teams play than that meat grinder hockey that seems to win every year?
I mean, the playoffs are tough. It's, oftentimes flip of a coin with regards to how a series goes, with the bounces that happen in the playoffs, and every team tries to build their team in their own identity, right? I think obviously more and more teams are trying to build a skilled identity and an identity that can score, but at the same time, I think in the playoffs, obviously you need to score hard goals, you need to get to those hard areas, and you have to be able to be willing to do that. So I think for our group, I think we're confident in our ability to to play in any type of game, whether it's a 1-0 game or a shootout. But those are obviously few and far between in the playoffs. So I think we're confident in our group and where we're building and where we're headed. And obviously we have we have to clinch first. We have to get there, and we've been playing well of late.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, you say a lot of teams are trying to build a team in a skilled identity. Hockey fans love those teams, right? We want to see goals all year long. And then, we've talked about this, how the game does change in the postseason. Would we, as a guy that's playing the game, and you've played for a couple of pretty good offensive teams, would you, are you okay with a pendulum swinging back towards a playoff game where skilled teams can thrive? Sure.
I mean, look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, who won over the past 2 years. They got some really skilled players, but they play the right way. They have depth throughout their lineup in the past in those 2 years, and they were able to mesh skill with a grinding game too. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think you need a little bit of everything, and I think it's very much a copycat league. So whenever team wins, you gotta mold you see teams trying to mold their game after them. But for our group, I think we're confident, like I said, in our ability to blend those two together and play hard when we need to, and then obviously you let your skill shine when you can.
Zach, after 70-something games as his teammate, could you tell us something about Connor McDavid that you didn't know about him before you signed here?
I think just first and foremost, meeting him before the season even started, being able to train with him out in, with Gary out in Aurora, Darnell's there, Shore's there, Fogel's there, so we had a nice group out there, and just seeing, aside from, playing hockey games, how dedicated and motivated he is to to be the best version of himself. I think that that's key, is that he, he doesn't compare himself, at least from what I've seen, to anybody. He just tries to push himself and compete with himself, and I think that's unique, and a unique trait of, that some of the great players have across all sports, is the ability, when you're leading and you're the best player, it's easy to chase somebody, and to, when you're running a marathon, to chase a guy down, but when you're the guy who's at the front of the pack, how can you keep pushing yourself, right? So I think just seeing his daily, grind and his daily motivation to get better is something that from afar you don't realize, but when you're sitting with him and you're watching him day to day, you get an appreciation for that.
Hey, Zach. So far this month, the Oilers are kind of outscoring teams 4-1 while shorthanded. Outside of the results, what has gone well for you guys while shorthanded this year, or this month?
Yeah. I mean, I think our PK has struggled at times this year, and it's nice to get back on track. I would say it's nice to find a rhythm. It's nice to build confidence, because in the playoffs, special teams are huge, and we're, obviously been at the top of the power play standings this whole year, and for years before that, since I've been here, the power play's always been good. So from a penalty kill side, to get confidence and to build that is extremely important. And I think just chipping in on the offensive side and scoring goals is nice. It's not the priority, but it's always nice to try to outscore the power play.